Our Chicago Bulls have long been dedicated to supporting young people in Chicago schools to create healthier lifestyles by making exercise fun. Imagine that. So here's a video about the EnergizaBulls.
About a year ago, Dave Curlin from the Bulls came to visit us and wanted to introduce us to a new program he was working on called EnergizaBulls.
The EnergizaBulls program uses technology, which today's kids are loaded with technology. There's 70 current fitness programs that are on here, whether it's yoga skills or sports-related skills or core training or kickboxing. Any kid or child can get out there and do, work on the program. But we create specific programs that Benny the Bull is teaching the exercises. So Benny the Bull's up on the screen, and he's teaching the kids the push-ups, the ladder drills, the sit-ups, and so it's more exciting for the kids.
Well, here at Roscoe, we think that exercise is a really important part of everybody's life, not only our kids, but the parents as well. So when Dave brought the EnergizaBulls program to our school, we felt it would be the perfect match. The minute we brought the program to the students, we sensed some kind of excitement. It was something new, something different they'd never seen before. It's something simple and easy anyone can do. You just hop in, you hop out, and from there you can move on to all the different levels. So I think in that regards, the program's really easy to use, and it frees up a teacher to help each individual student that might need the extra help. Not only do we do it in gym class, but now we have an after-school program that the kids are doing, and I've even heard some of the kids say they want to start doing it before school. So I think the interest here with the EnergizaBulls program has been amazing.
We're not only interested in winning basketball and getting championships, we're interested in our young people. We want them to have healthy minds and healthy bodies. If you got a healthy body, then that activates your mind. It's just a good program for the young kids. Get them off the couch, like I said, just keep them active. If you eat healthy, you're going to be healthy. If you exercise healthy, you're going to live a long and prosperous life. So let's keep it up.
I have been doing this program for 2 years, and I like it because we get to learn new stuff, and we are active instead of being in the house watching TV.
The thing that I like about it, it's after school, so we get to have fun when we leave from school. I got some of my friends to join, and they just love the program because it's good for them and they have fun.
What a wonderful program. I would like to welcome David Curlin, Senior Director of Community Relations with the Chicago Bulls. Tell us more about the EnergizaBulls program. How did the Chicago Bulls get involved with EnergizaBulls?
Well, for more than 20 years, we've had a community outreach program through our Community Relations Department, and during that time, we try to address different issues that face, society and the kids, and specifically in the Chicagoland area. So we've tackled programs such as literacy, staying in school, staying away from drugs, all of those programs which we still currently support, but we looked at childhood obesity, and we started realizing that this is something we have to take a look at. We pride ourselves on having some of the top athletes in the world play the game of basketball, and they're role models to many, many kids throughout not just Chicago, but throughout the country and the world, and we're not doing anything about fitness and exercise for kids.
And it's interesting because your stadium is in one of our less affluent communities. It's right on the edge. So you're seeing a lot of children, I'm sure, who are struggling with weight issues.
Absolutely, and it's not even necessarily focusing on kids struggling with weight issues. We spend a lot of time in schools, and just getting the kids excited about wanting to exercise and wanting to improve their health. So it could be kids that are even not technically considered overweight or obese, but those kids are not motivated to exercise or trying to get out of PE class. So our goal is simply to get kids excited about it.
Well, why do you want children to be excited about physical education? Look, I was always very happy when physical education was canceled for the day. I don't know if it was taking care of my hair or just the exertion. What is exciting about exercise?
Well, that's exactly it. You said it yourself, is that most kids don't want to get into it because traditionally PE or any kind of physical activity, whether it was after school, so forth, was forced upon them by teachers and so forth, and it was done in such an archaic way where we picked sides, and typically the kids that probably needed the most exercise were the ones last picked, and there's absolutely no desire to want to participate when you know that you're going to be last picked and your self-esteem's low. So we've basically developed a program where the kids, they learn exercise and they can get excited about it in their own little world, where they're not necessarily focused on what the other person's doing and how well they're doing. They focus on, what they're doing themselves.
Well, take me through the program. I mean, what is your target audience?
Well, our first thoughts when we came about this program I looked at it for about a year and a half, and we had a lot of programs that came across my desk that were curriculum-based, and there's nothing wrong with those programs, but that's not what we wanted. We didn't want kids looking in a workbook in a classroom and answering questions and telling the kids, okay, this is what you should do and how you should do it. We wanted to get kids off their feet and moving. So that was the number one thing. We decided that we wanted to go. Number two is that what motivates kids these days? Well, technology seems to be the number one factor that gets kids motivated. I have a 7-year-old, or I have 3 kids, but my 7-year-old's fascinated with anything with technology, video games, TV. So we wanted to base this program on technology and getting kids excited in a platform where they're going to enjoy watching, and in essence, trick them into exercise and in doing things that, while they're watching this fantastic program, oh, by the way, you're exercising. Trick them into exercise. Do you think that we've become too sedentary a culture? Absolutely. Absolutely. This culture has become far, I think, I'm certainly not an expert, and we rely on a lot of experts that we work with to feed us the information about it. But everyone says that we live in a sedentary, community and lifestyle in this country.
But I mean, anecdotally, because look, we are of the age, people in 30s and their 40s, we remember when the world was not ruled by the computer, when you didn't have 24/7 television. And there's been a bit of a shift. How do you compete with that, with this program?
Well, that's our program, is that our program is video-based. Well, first of all, we have more than 100 different exercise programs that are available for a PE teacher or any instructor to utilize. And that's anything from yoga to kickboxing to golf. And some of these programs are going to be new for children, especially in low economic areas where they've never been exposed to golf. I mean, there's very few golf courses in the city limits, let alone on the west side near Chicago or near the United Center. So when the kids go into the gymnasium or the classroom, wherever they decide to use this program, it's got an excitement to it. It's got very Hollywood theatrics to a lot of the programs and how they open up. Benny the Bull is teaching different exercises, but it starts off in a Roman Colosseum, and there's a lot of really dramatic music that goes on. That attracts the attention of the kids, and then they realize, okay, this is fun. I'm watching on the screen, but now I'm doing it in real life. While they're exercising, we can also, once they learn an exercise, you don't have to keep repeating the exercise. They learned it, they know it. So what we do is, through this program, we can educate them. And we can teach them about things, whether it's nutrition or health or staying away from smoking and the side effects of smoking and the negative things. There's a lot of different things that you can utilize this program for.
Well, what about, you're using Benny the Bull. What about some of the Chicago Bulls players? Are they involved? Are they enthusiastic about the program?
Absolutely. Out of all the programs we've had over the years, this is the one thing the players can easily relate to. Because you cannot play in the NBA unless you're a top physical condition. And you're starting to see those guys that have a lot of talent, basketball talent, and have the height and the strength, but they are not physically capable of playing. They don't stay in the league very long. So it's a game about top athletes. And so this is something they know their whole lives. In order to get to where they are today, they had to take care of themselves, they had to exercise, they had to build strength. So for them to get excited about this program is really easy. They enjoy it. When they're out there, they're teaching kids, the simple skills that they know and they have to learn in order to be a professional athlete.
So they're helping the children to understand that they would not be where they are if they were not physically fit, if they did not, you can't smoke and drink and overeat and on and on and on and play in the NBA.
Absolutely, or even any professional sport. And it's not even about professional sports in the sense that most kids aren't even going to make it to a collegiate level, let alone professional sports. It's that if you even aspire to want to improve yourself, and even it could be your local community basketball team or a program where you want to be the best. Well, these are the little edges that give you that performance. Plus, the biggest benefit, and it's often looked at as a side effect, is that you're healthy. You're going to be healthy, and you're going to feel better. You're going to sleep better. We're working with some experts on studies that are showing that physical activity is helping to improve the brain's ability to learn. And that, you know, these are things that most people aren't looking at, or even behavioral issues. It's reducing, you know, behavioral problems in schools because the kids are being more physically active.
Well, what are some of the results that you're seeing? I mean, not just physically, but I'd say socially.
And that's the only thing that we're seeing, because we're, like I said, I'm not an expert that's going to be able to tell you, okay, we're lowering the BMI of, you know, certain kids.
Sure.
We're just simply saying these kids love the program and they're excited, and it's providing variety. They're not walking into a gym class and doing the same thing for this, you know, every day. We have enough video programs themselves to provide any teacher with more than 3 years of repeatable exercises. So in theory, you know, the kids can go in that classroom every day, or the PE, you know, gym, and do something different throughout the entire school year.
So do you think it's important to have these different programs? I mean, is it because our children need a lot of variety?
It's exposure too. I mean, we want to expose kids to things that they wouldn't normally be exposed to. We have a professional hockey player teaching some basic hockey skills. Same thing with golf. We have a former world record holder swimmer who's teaching dry land swimming. So, you know, very few schools have swimming pools, but so the likelihood of those kids even learning the basics of what it takes to, you know, swim freestyle or backstroke, they're never going to get that instruction because that PE teacher's not going to teach it. But now we have a format that allows them to teach it in their classroom without actually getting in the pool.
Do you have any built-in incentives in the program? Like, do they get the chance to go to any games, meet any of the other players, and things like that?
Well, that's where we are very good at. Everybody, if you know, we'd like to believe that most of Chicago, if not all of Chicago, is a Bulls fan. So one of the things that we'll offer schools and students is the opportunity to, if they perform in this program, if they stick with the program with the school, if the school utilizes the program, then their kids and students and faculty will be eligible to receive tickets to come into a game. That's only one small part of it. We've already taken some of the kids that have been participating in this program this past year and brought them to our practice facility. And immediately following practice, we had a few players stick around and actually did the exercise program with the kids. On the flip side of that, we've surprised schools, and we brought our players to schools and had the kids participate there. So there's tremendous opportunity for the kids to.
But I mean, so you're not grading the children, but you do have built-in incentives for these young people to really stick with this program.
And it's a simple incentive. You perform, you just try your best, and you can be part of, you know, a bigger, you know, plan with us, and being able to do some exciting things that most kids don't get a chance to do.
Well, how can we get, I mean, does one apply? I mean, how could we get an EnergizaBull program into my school? I mean, how do we do that?
Well, it's there's obviously costs associated with the equipment and so forth and all the programming. We are doing our best to work with the Chicago Public Schools on developing a plan to move the system in as many schools as we can, and hopefully starting with a pilot program. Another option is that we're working with different nonprofit foundations besides our own foundation and provide funding for schools. Or, as we've seen lately, is that some schools have said, look, we really need this program, we're going to write you a check and we want it right now. And we're not in the business of making money off of this, so we've lowered the expense as best we could. But on the other side of it is we need to have schools have buy-in, because we don't want to put this in a school, because we've seen all too often that a lot of times after, you know, a little use, it goes in the closet and doesn't get used again. So the school has to have ownership into it.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Can't wait to get to see more of the EnergizaBull program in our Chicago public schools. We really do need it.
Thank you.
If you're interested in having the EnergizaBulls program come to your school, call David Kurland at 312-455-4137 or send him an email at dkurland@bulls.com. Our next guest brings farming to the neighborhoods of our cities. It's called Growing Power. Watch this.
My vision really has always been that every person on earth should have access to the same healthy food. I grew up on a farm right outside of Washington, D.C., so I've always been involved in agriculture. We're a year-round food producer. For growing this kind of stuff, we're the largest year-round producer in the state of Wisconsin, and maybe one of the largest in the Midwest, and we're a nonprofit. So we're able to grow throughout the winter inside these greenhouses without heat by using the compost piles as the heating source. This is a worm depository where we're growing biomass of worms. These worms are kind of the lifeblood of our growing. On the one side, we've got 10,000 tilapia in there in warm water, and there's the heater that heats the water, that heats the entire greenhouse in the wintertime. And then we've got lake perch grown in cold water over here. When you can't commercially fish for them in Lake Michigan, that's mercury contaminated. We're able to grow these, and these fish runs. One pump operates this entire system. We lift water up, gravity takes it this way on both levels, and it drops back into the system. So this is a very efficient way of growing food. This is ag of the future, ag of now, because we're doing it now, but ag of the future. In this greenhouse, so we're taking, say, 3,000 square feet and turning it into 4,500 square feet of growing space by using vertical growing. So that's going to be very important in the future of how we use this high-valued space inside cities. And what we're talking about is knowing who your farmers are, knowing how your food is produced. We're engaging young people of all ages, from 8 years old to 40 years old, to really become these farmers of the future. Besides a food crisis, we have an absolute health crisis that strikes the people that have the less. The first place that people cut is food in their families, because they got to pay their mortgages, they got to try to stay in their houses. So the first thing they do is cut food, which hurts people's health. Our Market Basket program is a program of $16. You get a bag of food, 12 to 14 items, and that food is dropped into any community, any food insecure communities. For a family of 4, you give them all the fruits and vegetables they need for a week. It really changed the dynamic of how people access food, how people eat food, and it gets people back to cooking at home. I don't really think that we can build communities without healthy food systems. I just don't see how we can.
What an interesting concept. Farming in the city. Erica, welcome to WISE TV's forum. It's a revolutionary concept, farming in the city, farming in the 21st century. Or is it a revolutionary concept?
It's kind of an old concept that we're bringing back. I think a lot of folks can remember, produce being grown in their backyard or on the family farm, or, just someone on the block having a big garden. And it's something that everybody sort of knew where the food came from, knew how to prepare it, knew how the system worked. Now we live in a time when we have a whole generation of youth that don't know who grows their food, they don't know where it comes from, they don't even know what it tastes like. All they're used to are overly processed foods and have a really limited palate for what even fruit is.
Because I don't know if it's an urban myth or if there was an actual study, but I had heard that some elementary school kids were asked what yielded the French fry, and they didn't know that it came from a potato.
Yeah.
So, what is this program? First, explain that.
Well, Growing Power is a national, now international organization that teaches communities how to operate their own food system. And I think that concept is really a new one, but an old one. So a community food system means that a community owns, operates, creates the systems that allow culturally appropriate ways of growing the food, ways of processing the food, ways of preparing it, and also moving the food around is happening within a community, is controlled by the community. This is something that I think a lot of us don't know anything about. We just sort of roll into our grocery store, if we have one in our community, and pick whatever's on sale and, kind of prepare it, if we even know how to prepare the food, and just kind of don't ask those questions. I think for Growing Power, we became more and more relevant, I think, post 9/11, where this whole idea of food security became sort of a much more pressing issue, where people began to ask compelling questions about security. And one of the things that came up was food security. And then we started looking at vulnerable communities.
Well, what's food security? I heard something about the President presidential administration, now renaming hunger food insecurity,
Right.
that people are food insecure as opposed to simply being hungry. What's food security?
Well, I think a lot of the communities and a lot of the guests that have been on tonight as well are very aware of this. We're looking at obesity and all kinds of diet-related illnesses.
Particularly as it relates to children.
Because of the insecurity. If you don't have fresh, safe, healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate food within a community, then you're food insecure. You can have a lot of food stuffs, meaning things that resemble food, kind of taste like food, but don't have any nutrients that are relevant to folks within that community. We all come from different heritages. We have different tolerances for kinds of food. Our bodies absorb nutrient at different rates. And we're talking about a generic food system that delivers everybody calorie-laden foods that have very, very little nutritional wholeness to them. And then we're looking at these communities and saying, you should be eating healthy food. Look, there's an obesity epidemic. There are all these diet-related illnesses, but we're not creating any systems to help address those issues that bring hope, that allow the community to embrace and control those systems. So it's more than just bringing in the powers that be to open up a grocery store. We want to see that grocery store owned and operated by the community. We want to see new infrastructure and new employment opportunities for the young people who are dealing with all of these epidemics, not just obesity, but all the different epidemics that make a community insecure.
But I see you making a connection between this epidemic of childhood obesity, this epidemic of this child health crisis with economic disempowerment.
Exactly.
And so you see economic empowerment as a key to resolving this crisis.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because, if you have, I think that if you have opportunity and if you have access, it creates a whole new level of opportunity for communities to really address their ills.
Well, then let me ask you this. Is it cost effective?
Yes.
Okay, explain that. Look, I have to keep it real. We're watching the Dow lose points and percentages every day.
It's a completely different system.
Okay,
So,
what do you mean?
If you're supporting somebody who's growing, let's say, a little co-op forms of a group of young people. We have some young people
What's
that we've
a co-op?
It's a cooperative venture. It means that people work together to get something done.
They cooperate.
They cooperate. So,
And they cooperate.
They cooperate,
Okay.
exactly. So we have a group of young people who have been born and raised in Cabrini Green. They want to start composting. These are young men who are inspired to compost, that want to grow food, that sell the freshest, safest, most organic produce that you can imagine at our city's farmers markets, and they want to get in on that game. And that's an exciting thing. So we have young people who are excited and motivated by not only the economic benefits that can happen from growing your own food, but also see the ripple effect among their peers, among the health. They're bringing that healthy food into their households. They're learning how, within our program and many of our colleagues' programs, how to prepare and eat these foods. That has a transformative effect. So, some of the doctors talked about genetics and all these other things. I, for example, have struggled with my weight my whole life.
Have I?
Yes, as many of us. And, looking at wellness and looking at a continuum, and it's a constant struggle, but you don't give up. You eat as healthy as you can, you stay physically active and strong. I'm out there with those kids harvesting and working and using my body in ways that most people my size don't do. And I'm aware of how motivating that is. So when the kids look at me and I may resemble someone in their family, oh, well, Erica can do this, well, I can do it. And so it creates this whole community of mentors and systems that can begin to undo some of the I think, direct ramifications of racism and internalized oppression that many communities of color have suffered over the last few centuries. And so we're really fighting this battle, and we don't have that much time because we're now dealing with a lost generation from a culinary, nutritional perspective, because many of us grew up. I'm almost 40. I grew up on a farm, and within my peer group, there are very few of us, regardless of color and economic status, who have that knowledge.
Well,
I have
farms
the knowledge.
are losing. They're not being. The family farmer is just going the way of the dinosaur,
Exactly.
unfortunately.
So,
do you think that's? What is that doing to our country?
That's just doing what we're seeing. If you don't have the aunt or your uncle outside in the country coming in every weekend with, bushel baskets full of produce if you live in the city, which always happened. Almost everybody, I mean, I'm sure some of